everyone. Welcome to A Beer in Business. This week we are with Kevin Carr, the founder and president of the Community Beer Company. But first, what have you got there?
I've got a beer, specifically our Texas lager. This is a light type of lager, really well-rounded, everyday sessionable kind of beer.
And I selected your wheat beer because there's nothing I don't like about unfiltered wheats, and this is phenomenal. First of all, you've done this walk over the thin ice of entrepreneurship a couple times. Where did it start?
I think the passion kind of started early as a kid, kind of hustling and trying to make money and stuff like that. But yeah, my first business was kind of mid-90s. It was actually in the financial world. Then started a business doing digital marketing, a lot of websites, then into legal software, and then today, beer. All of that will make you want to drink.
Absolutely. What's really interesting is you talk about these, they all seem like they were doing something slightly new. Was that a theme?
Maybe. I mean, before I went into the financial services business, I was in the financial services, so that was a natural progression. But it was definitely new. Once I got into technology, though, I was always into technology, computer science minor. When I sold my last business, which was a software business, I did it so that I could go provide beer to people.
So was beer an underlying passion?
So I've always been into beer. In college, first 2 years of college, I didn't drink at all. So a lot of my friends that know me now, I think it's bizarre that I own a brewery. So I homebrewed for about 15 years before I opened a brewery. And because of that experience and that passion for it, when I was looking to do something different and make a change, that was kind of top of the list. I was, kind of already interested in it.
So you didn't just dive in.
No.
So what was that path when you say, you know what, when I sell the software company, this is where I think I'm going to take it. Take us through that research and that decision process, because I would imagine along that path, research may take you to the place, maybe this isn't a good idea, maybe this isn't a good market, but you went all the way through and then you said yes.
At the software company, we had offices in New York, DC, Chicago, did a lot of business in Denver and Portland, which are very craft beer centric cities.
Completely.
Yeah, and so as I was visiting those markets and seeing this great beer scene that existed out there, I'd come home to Dallas and there was really nothing. There's windows of opportunities with any business, any industry. You see it every day. The window of opportunity for me was in my hometown in Dallas, Texas. There was a couple of craft breweries that were open, but I just saw literally a wide open, untapped market, pun completely intended. And so, instead of just jumping right into it and shifting gears, which is a very risky thing to do, it's risky enough to open a business, but once you grow it to a certain scale and you have your lifestyle and you have all the moving parts that depend on you and your business, you can't just hard shift that way. So what I did is I started to just investigate what it would take to open a brewery, right? And so a lot of that was demographic research, understanding alcohol sales in this market specifically. The big hurdle for me was I had never been in the beer business or the alcohol business. I had spent the last, at this point, 20 years of my career in the technology business. You can do a bunch of research, but for me, you got to go talk to people. When I went to these markets, I would find time to, extend my trip and seek out these business owners and seek out these brewers and ask them for their time to talk to me and tell me, the ins and outs of the business, what they have done successfully, what they would do different if they could start over. And so this whole process really, what I was doing is I was almost looking for a reason not to do it. And at the end of the exercise, I didn't find a reason not to do it, so I did it.
What's great about that is you just described the process. It's not just having a passion and being impulsive and opening up next Tuesday. It's almost finding the reasons not to do it and then retalking or reselling yourself on the dream to do it. How did you find employee number one, number two, and the key players? Because there's a lot of chemistry in beer. It's a food product, so there's things you have to comply with there, and then you have to finance it. So what was, when you said, okay, let's do it, what was the path to find those first 2-3 key people and then the financing? Did you bootstrap?
Because I'd been self-employed for a while, I had enough experience under my belt. Maybe made a lot of decisions wrong that I would have done differently, but you learn from those experiences. I made a lot of right decisions, obviously. So I had a good idea of finance and accounting and operations and HR and legal and a lot of those moving parts that go into marketing and sales that go into business. As we talked about, I homebrewed, but the one thing that I recognize is just because I could homebrew doesn't mean you can do it commercially. And a lot of people do that. They make that mistake, and there's a host of issues that can come from that. So right out of the gate, I knew that I had to align with a head brewer or a master brewer or brewmaster. But I was fortunate enough to come across Jamie Fulton, who is still our brewmaster and a business partner with me. Here's a guy who lives in Fort Worth, who had a brew pub, had won a ton of awards through that brew pub. Kind of in between gigs, he was traveling the world installing brewery equipment at other breweries, was looking to get back on the brew deck. And so sometimes in business, timing is key to next steps forward in success. And so I was fortunate enough to be able to find Jamie, and together we've built this incredible brewery.
It is a true statement that every entrepreneur has got like 3 or 4 core competencies that are underneath. When did you know that community beer had like crossed an inflection point, and how long did that take? You said, you know what, we're gonna make it. How long did that take? When did you know?
I'm not gonna lie, those first couple of years were really rough. Before, when you're in technology, my biggest cost center were programmers, was staff, right? In this business, it's very capital intensive. I mean, you look at these tanks back here, that brew house was several $100,000. Each of those tanks ranged between $40,000 to $60,000. Obviously, we laid out a budget, and of course, we were way over budget. I had a running joke of, if we need a broom, is that going to cost $12,000? Because everything seemed to start at $12,000.
There's probably a $12,000 broom out there somewhere.
Probably so. The first year, honestly, as much business experience as I had, I'd never done this business before, and I was relying on a lot of metrics from someone else. Really took every bit of my experience in kind of working through the valleys of revenue and expenses and timing things out to kind of get some sure footing under us. And thankfully for us, when we opened up along with some others, the craft beer business in North Texas was starting to explode pretty quickly. I mean, it was almost straight up. And the more you could produce, the more you could sell. It was really one of those situations. So that helped us a lot. Year 2, we strengthened, still kind of really watching our pennies. We're always watching our pennies. But to answer your question, I think it was about year 3. The industry was starting to mature a little bit. Our business was starting to mature a little bit. We really kind of got set into our expenses and our capacity, and we were able to sign on with a really good distributor, which could help, kind of take our sales to the next level. And that was really the point where I was like, all right, things are going well. Folks are enjoying our products. Year 4, we were very profitable, and we're about to celebrate year 5 here in the next couple of weeks.
So if people are here in Dallas on the Saturday the 27th, that's your 5-year anniversary.
That's right.
You know what I think is really interesting about what you said is how disciplined and faithful you have to be to a process and a plan. You don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, and in the Army they talk about that the battle plan usually doesn't survive the first day of combat. But if you've spent these hours and hours, hundreds and hundreds of hours planning, then you're ready for all the alternatives, because all that thinking was into your planning stage. Did you get to a point where you felt like, man, I just don't know where we're going? Or did you really just kind of lean back on your career as an entrepreneur and all the other businesses and saying, okay, this is a bum day, this is a trough, this is a low revenue moment, but you know what? I feel there's light out there, we're gonna get through it.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely some moments that keep you up at night, and as an entrepreneur, I mean, that's pretty much a constant, really. I mean, if you're so invested every part of your life in your business, I mean, every moving part of that business can affect your life. The longer you're in business, the more you see, and I felt that I had seen enough to where I could navigate peaks and valleys. In my mind, the way I process information and process those situations, it doesn't fluster me. I think because of my experience, I know there's a path. There's often several paths to get to where you need to go. You just got to see all the moving parts and pick the right path that is either the most productive, the most cost-effective, the most whatever your goal is. I mean, there was a point where we were down to $2,000 in the bank.
Wow.
That's not a lot of money.
No, it's not.
And that stressed me out. But you know where your receivables are, and you know what your production is, and we do a lot of events and tours. You can expect a certain amount of revenue this week, and so you can kind of see this path to get out of that valley and right the ship. And also, if it's not going to be all right, always have contingencies on what you're going to do if it's not all right. That's a big part of giving at least yourself some relief. Is like, well, worst case, this is the path we're going to take if path number one doesn't work out. It's almost just always moving chess pieces, and if you've got the experience, you can pull that off pretty effectively.
Regardless of whether it was community or one of your early businesses, what is a time where you made just a righteous error and you had to learn from it later because it didn't turn out well?
Well, the error that didn't turn out well, gosh, I mean, how long do you have, I mean, that's part of it, right?
I could write a book on them.
Right. I mean, that's kind of the entrepreneurial path, is like you often make more mistakes than right ones, but when you write, they better be really right to keep you going. To answer that question, there was a business opportunity that I kind of half-assed into, and it could have been something bigger. Every day there's windows of opportunity. You don't just start a business and go down the path and everything works out swimmingly the way you think it is. It's, once you start a business, here come all the moving parts and situational things that change every single day, literally. And there's always windows of opportunity to help you grow your brand, grow your product, whatever it is. So when I had the digital marketing company, we were doing a lot of websites and things like that. And what I like to do is I would try to find a window of opportunity to build an application that I could go on and sell. And oftentimes I would create its own branding. I wouldn't confuse it with the branding of the marketing company. I'd let it kind of get up on its own startup. And once it got some legs, I would spin it off into its own product. Well, I found an opportunity with, at the time, web statistics, measuring people who come to your website and things like that. Today it's ubiquitous, but this was back in the mid-90s. And if you wanted that kind of business intelligence, those analytics, you had to spend a lot of money. So I saw a big opportunity to create a web statistics or a reporting platform that you could plug into your website. So I got my developers, we built it, worked well. It worked just like the big boys, but $20 a month. I mean, who's gonna say no to that versus thousands a month? And immediately sold it to my clients, they're using it. Created its own little online marketing and started to get leads from all over the world, started doing implementations. The thing is though, I didn't nurture it. I didn't take care of it. I didn't focus on growing it. I had some momentum. I didn't capitalize on it. So we grew at a very kind of slow burn with that. And it's easy to say, we're growing, so it's good. All the while I knew we could do more. I could put more resources into it. I could put more of my time into it. I could do more marketing into it. But I'll get to it. We're doing good enough, right?
And you had the full-time agency over here.
Right, yeah. Wearing many hats, so it's an honest mistake, right? But I was really excited about this product. Well, fast forward, 3, 4 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year later, well, here come 4 or 5 other companies that's doing the exact same thing. There was one in particular, I think they basically stole all of our platform, all of our ideas, and went out and did this. That company went on to sell that platform 2 years later to one of the big guys for many millions of dollars. And I've never forgotten that lesson. It's one thing to not jump at the window of opportunity when it opens, and if you don't, it's gonna close. But if you jump at it, if you're gonna put in the time, do it all the way. If you're gonna do it half-assed, don't even bother. Don't even try to do it because you're only gonna lose the opportunity.
My dad had a saying, he used to say, Tom, you have to commit to things. You can't wear a raincoat in a shower. That's not the purpose of the shower. The purpose of the shower is you're gonna get wet. And there's a purpose to that. And so you try to wear a raincoat in a shower to say, well, I was in the shower, I took a shower, but I wanted to save time. And it's just like, there's all the metaphors that come with that. And what he was saying was the same thing. Whether it's a project or a company, you gotta commit and go all in. Not foolishly, but you have to commit to the plan to nurture it. Where did you find your set of principles that lead to whatever management or mentoring style? Where did that come from?
I've learned that, for me anyway, that if you bring motivated, hardworking people around you as part of your team and you let them run with parts of the business, they'll thrive and the business will thrive along with it. When I first started in business for myself, for me, I felt like I had to be a micromanager. I had to be in every part of every decision. And over time, you start to learn, especially the bigger you get, that doesn't work. That doesn't work for everybody or most people. Firstly, because if you're micromanaging, you're spending more time doing things day to day that take away from other things you can be doing, right? The view of the world in business is units of work versus units of revenue or result. Ideally, you want to put in the fewest units of work to get the highest units of results or revenue, right? That's the perfect balance. And this is how I feel, others may disagree, but when you micromanage, you spend more units of work to get maybe arguably the same units of result, maybe less. And you're doing the same for the person you're micromanaging. If you trust someone enough to be a part of your team and pay them money and invest in their career, then there's something about them that you felt that they could do the job. So let them do the job.
So you've done so many things, all these different companies and stuff here. It feels like you're learning every day.
Yeah, that's true. You never stop learning. As much experience or knowledge or anything that you're good at that you bring to the business, if you're not prepared to continue to learn, then you're going to handcuff yourself. When you want to start a business, you have to learn the basic principles. There's a lot of folks who don't know what, the difference between a P&L and a balance sheet. That's pretty important, especially if you're going to grow, and especially if you're going to go to a bank or an investor to ask for some money. Whatever you're good at, bone up on what you're not good at, what you don't know. Don't ever stop learning, because when you get complacent, when you think you got it all figured out, that's when something's going to shift and you're not going to be ready.
Absolutely. So right now you're in Texas. What is the next milestone for you in terms of distribution and getting beyond Texas?
In this business, I think a lot of breweries and business owners will become enamored with the idea of going out of state. I mean, how cool is it to go to Colorado and see your stuff on the shelf? For us, though, there's a lot more room to grow inside of our own state. Once you start going out of state, you start to lose some margin. The laws are different per state, so you got to deal with that. You have to, as a business owner, again, not be complacent. Like, just look at the metrics, look at what everyone else is doing, and look at what you're doing, and realize that there's more room to grow. It's the same activity you're already doing, you can just do more of it, so therefore you can keep a higher margin and make more money while doing it. The last report that came out this summer, we were ranked the 10th largest brewery in the state, which is actually shocking to me because there's almost 300 breweries now in the state. But when I look at our footprint in other markets, in Houston and San Antonio and out west in the Panhandle, there's so much room to grow still for us. How do we leverage that and take it to the next level? How do we add more people in different markets? How do we leverage off-premise versus on-premise? And so our plans right now, we have no illusions of going out of state.
That brings to mind some things, because there are people that will leave comments on case studies or other things that are on the Valuetainment channel. And it's like, oh, I'm in Australia and I can't wait to sell in the United States. I'm in Brazil, I can't wait to come to the US. But what you just brought up is a really important thing. It's get it right at home, maximize what you have at home, and then from that foundation, maybe there's a path to go there. But that's almost like an original entrepreneurial decision, because now the cost, the difficulty, the team, and all the things you're gonna have to do are different. So it's almost like going back and making, okay, I'm a national company, but now to be an international company is almost like a different entrepreneurial thought you got to put into there on how to fund it, how to pull it off, and how to get there successfully. Otherwise, you could find yourself, hey, we did all this work, and now this Australian product, we're selling it in the United States, and I'm not making a lot, and I got headaches, and I'm up half the night because of the time zones. And boy, I wish I thought this over.
Well, and a lot of times, as a business owner, it's important to say no. Something sounds like a good idea, well, maybe it sounds like a good idea, but let's put pen to paper, make sure it's a good idea, and if it's not a good idea for whatever reason, you say no to it, and you walk away from it, and you focus on what you're already doing well. Why add more to the mix if you're already doing something well?
Well, thank you so much for that, and I am glad that you said yes to talking to us, because this has been great, this has been informative, and I think a lot of people are going to get a lot out of that, whether they're running a t-shirt company in Perth, Australia, or they're running a brewery following a passion here in Dallas, Texas, and I so appreciate that, and so do they. If you want to support an entrepreneur here in Dallas and support a wonderful brewery and all the people that have worked at it and the jobs they've created and everything they've done and the risks they've taken to make great beer for us, it's on January 27th. Tickets are online. You got to go online, right?
Yes.
And what time does it start, and where can I go to get the ticket?
You can go to our website. There'll be a link, communitybeer.com. It starts at noon, but there's 3 different sessions. There's a premier access, there's a early entry access, and there's a general admission access. There'll be plenty of beer for everybody to go around. It just depends if you want to get some of that rare stuff before it's gone, then you should come earlier.
So come here at noon to get some of those 50 beers and some of those that you aged special for the event.
That's right, yep.
Come down and support Community Beer, making jobs and an entrepreneur here in Dallas. This is great to meet you. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.